Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette. This is my channel, Evolve with Monette. For those of you that are new here, I'm a professional intuitive empath. Thank you for inviting me in. Come on in. Have a seat. I don't even know what this one's going to be about today, guys. I am in this hurricane that has come across the state of Florida. It made landfall as a Category 5. Now I think we're at a Category 3. But it is right over our house currently. The power is gone. The thing about power in Florida, the power is finicky at our house anyway. That's like a thing on a random day. It could go off. So we were fully anticipating for the power to be off. All the backup stuff is prepared. That's why I feel comfortable making the video, because I have backups on backups on backups for my phone, because that's the only way you can stay connected. Even if the internet is down, there's still other ways to kind of be connected a little bit. So that's good. I've been texting with dear friends, and people have evacuated to shelters with their 89-year-old mothers and sisters and animals and pets. My closest friend has been texting me and keeping me updated on as to what's going on with her family. The power is out in that area over there where they live too. And Florida, to get from one side of Florida to the other is approximately maybe like a 3+ hour drive if you drove like a straight line from the east to west coast. So the storm is covering the whole of Florida very easily. And the storm surge and the rain and the winds and the power outages will be things that we deal with. So we're just asking for prayers here, because that's really all it can be. I've already seen that there are some deaths that have happened on the west coast where it made landfall. And you know, the longest I have been without power in a hurricane is about 2 weeks, and that was in Hurricane Andrew when I was 12 years old, and that hit Miami, Homestead area horrifically, like disaster like I'd never seen. I remember driving with my dad. You guys are gonna hear my little mini fan here because it's hot already. Power goes out. It's been out for a while, but when the power goes out, so thank God I've got all my mini backup fans. Like, I carry a little fan in my purse all the time. I have several of them, and so fortunately everything's charged up and ready to go. But we have a long haul potentially, because we do not know how long it's going to take for the power to be restored, and we are not, you don't get, nothing is, it doesn't a hurricane is a great equalizer. So forget about priority and who's first and who called first. It's who needs it the most, which is hospitals. Certainly, those usually stay pretty well powered supply unless something horrific happens. Very curious to what's happening to the hospital. It's over in Tampa Bay. There was a hospital literally built on the river, which might have been beautiful and picturesque, but not maybe a great idea in the aftermath of things. They have put up a water fence that was like engineered over in Europe, and it's $1 million+ water fence that's supposed to hold back the storm surge, so they are somewhat protected, but God bless and pray for everybody there. But in any case, Hurricane Andrew, and I remember my dad and I driving with other family members in the van. You remember those vans from the 80s that everybody had to have that like recline? It was like the Pimp My Ride van, and it had like the TV screens in it and everything. Like, we had one of those. Of course he did. And my dad was anyway, full narcissist, but that meant he had to have the fancy trappings of life in any case. So we was riding in style, but the thing about it is we were riding through an apocalyptic landscape. The houses look like toothpicks. I'd never seen anything like it, and I've never seen anything like it since. And this hurricane put into my mind that we could be seeing something like that again, and I am now 44. So that's how many years ago that happened, when I was literally a child, and we were driving to get a huge ice block. They had radioed, because everybody had CB radios back then, that there were ice blocks that were available for sale at a certain place in Miami. So we drove more than 3 hours, because to get from Marathon to Miami Homestead area, usually a couple of hours. But when you're going on the 18-mile stretch and everything's shut down, and there's one way in and out of the Keys, there's 40-something bridges that connect the Keys, so they're not one after another. So you might drive through a little piece of island, and then there's a bridge, and then so on and so forth. So we were in traffic for maybe 8 hours that day. To get from a 2-hour trip took about 8 hours to get into Miami to get that block of ice, which sustained our family. This huge block of ice, I'll never forget it. My dad and my uncle lifting it into this van, and our family all, and my dad, Rolling Stone, but in a weird way, all the community came together. All of his wives and mistresses and all of the things, ex-wives and all of the kids that he had spawned were all in his house. He had a house in Grassy Key, and we survived there with fighting and complaining and sweating to death. But we did it for 2 weeks, living off of that block of ice, meaning things were able to be cooled, and like we were able to kind of preserve food for a little bit, and whatever the case may be. So it has been, that was such an interesting, it's like, you know what you can survive when you survive it. Of course, the adults were in charge, so we were just doing what we were told, and we're West Indian as well, so we are used to surviving like island life in a way, you know, even though I was born in the States. I'm a first generation American. I You're taught like the old school ways. So I was taught how to wash my clothes by hand in a basin, and how to bathe myself in a basin if I needed to, how to boil my water to take a bath, and all of that stuff came in handy in so many different times of my life. I remember living in Alabama, and there was like a power outage or something that happened, and or no, I didn't have a water heater, and I was so like crushingly impoverished. I was just left the cult, but I was still working at the daycare that was adjacent to the cult, and they were paying me probably a few dollars an hour, maybe 3, 4, less than 5 for sure, and I could not afford a water heater. And I had bought a house, a trailer specifically, to escape the cult, and it was like fire sale, this trailer, and it had holes in the floor. It was so dilapidated, and I thought the person who sold it to me was doing me a favor, but really they were offloading this junk. Anyway, I restored it, but I didn't have the money for a water heater, so I would have to like boil my water to take showers, and it was cold in Alabama. I wasn't used to that. I don't know if I ever saw it snow in Alabama, but definitely it got very cold, and I would have to boil my water to take baths to go to work at this place with these people that hated me. God, but thank God for my survival skills of growing up West Indian and knowing how to do that, and to be able to wash my clothes and to be prepared and have the water be boiled and cover it, so that if I didn't have time in the morning, I could at least have a warm bath instead of a scalding hot one. Anyway, all of these things come in handy, you know, from your childhood that you think you'll never need, and man, oh God, did I need it. But we survived that hurricane. We survived that hurricane. All of us piled into the house. All of these people that hated each other, all of these factions and different sides and exes and people that would give each other side eyes across town. My father was a Lothario, to say the least. A Libra man that could never really make a choice, except for if the choice was to be diabolical and cause confusion. And he needed all the attention, like most Libra energies that have not evolved do. God bless you if you're a Libra that's evolved, but what I have seen of Libra energy is that they make chaos so easily, and they're like, who, me? Absolutely you. But I remember that, and I remember that block of ice, and I remember that drive, and I remember seeing the landscape littered with toothpicks. And I don't know what we're gonna wake up to right now. It's about 5 in the morning, and the power went out a couple hours ago. Something exploded on the side of the house. I heard it. Told my husband. I was like, something exploded. He went outside, and as soon as he did, the power just went. And then I was texting with my friend, and she was like, the power's out, and she's about an hour away from me, over where she's at too. The streets were already flooded by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. People were kayaking in certain areas where my mother lives and all of that. So it's just been so much, guys. I mean, these storms back to back like this, Helene, which just ravaged the Carolinas. I have so many feelings about that. The Carolinas have held such a special place for me, and in this last year there's been such a closure moment for me regarding the Carolinas. And when that hurricane hit, it's funny because I was actually supposed to be in Asheville the week of the hurricane. I know that seems crazy, but it's not. One of my clients who passed away, God bless her soul, God rest her soul, she passed away with glioblastoma, and her husband was organizing a yearly, we were going to go celebrate her life. Her name was Joy, and we were going to go celebrate her life. And so he reached out to me personally, but also I was involved in the group text, and he was like, hey, we're going to celebrate, we're going to get together. And he planned all this stuff in Asheville specifically because they had they have a condo in Asheville that I'd stayed at with him and his wife when I'd been up to visit several times. And anyway, that was going to be kind of the hub. Everybody was going to rent their own spaces because he had about 18 to 20 people coming from all over the country that were going to fly in. Tickets were purchased and plane tickets and everything. And it was like a little bit of a complicated situation for me just personally. So I wanted to go and honor her, but I was going to make sure that I did it in a way where I split the weekend, where I was not there for the complicated part, to be clear. And so I was going to pay my respects and go to the first part where I knew I could spend some time with him and honor him in that. And my angels were like, you're not supposed to go. And I thought it had to do with some other things going on. And they said, no, you're not supposed to go. And so it was so interesting because I told him, I said, well, I don't think I'm going to make it. I told him I'd come visit him personally here because he lives in Georgia. And I said, I'll come visit you soon. In the next week or two, we'll spend some time together. But I don't think I'm supposed to do the Asheville trip. But I had fully intended, even purchased a plane ticket, to go to be there for the first couple days of the thing and get out of there before the weekend began. And my angels said no. Now, they didn't tell me there was going to be a hurricane and Asheville was going to be obliterated. They did not tell me that, so I don't even want to make any, lie about that. But they said no. And little did I know, no one was going. And so instead what happened was he sent out a group text where he's like, we're going to have to obviously cancel because at this point, this was a couple weeks ago, Hurricane Helene had hit, and the only way you could access Asheville was by air. And it's just unfathomable to me. I mean, Asheville is so beautiful, and it's been woven through the tapestry of my entire life. My first girlfriend and I camped at Chimney Rock, which is now gone. It's completely, literally eviscerated and gone, washed away. Swam in the river there with those beautiful, gorgeous rocks. Climbed Chimney Rock, which I'm terrified of heights, so that was interesting. We were dirt broke years and years ago, and we camped there. That's all we could afford to do. Years later, I would go back and stay in a cabin, and then years later, I would go back and stay in a chalet, and then years later, I would go back and stay at the backside of the Biltmore. I have a video up here about that. So while that's not Chimney Rock and the Biltmore are not next to each other, but they're in Asheville. And if you're in Asheville, you might as well head to Chimney Rock. But it's been such this full circle thing happening with that hurricane where I knew that this major chapters of my life were closing. And for those people there, a whole new life has begun and major chapters have closed for so many people. There have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It's unfathomable to me deaths. I believe that Hurricane Helene will probably prove to be in the top 1, not 2 maybe, of the most deadly hurricanes. I mean, we're still in the midst. I'm literally talking to you in the middle of a hurricane. So we shall see what happens here. But what made that so devastating and so deadly is that they weren't prepared. And it's not a knock on them. We're Floridians. I'm a Floridian, meaning I was born in New York, but I grew up in Florida. And I grew up with West Indian parents, so I grew up with understanding, weather and how things will go. I'm going to turn off my fan for a bit to conserve it, because I'm cooled off a bit here. But I grew up with that. And you prepare as much as you can. And then when the storm is over, you go get your blocks of ice. And I'm going to turn off this light too, guys. I'm just, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of all the conservation that I really need to do, because I don't really need a light. We can talk in the dark. But, and I don't want to light candles because it makes the house hot. It's like a whole thing. It's like a whole way you've got to live once you are living with no power, because this could be for weeks and weeks that we don't have power, and it's very possible. And, yeah, it's very possible. So in any case, what was I saying? Hurricane, Asheville. I lost my train of thought. Chapters closing, the deadliest storm. The song that comes to mind is Turn the Page. When I drove up to Chimney Rock years ago, Metallica's Turn the Page specifically, which is a redo of Bob Seger's Turn the Page. Bob Seger's is more craggy and kind of broken down and melancholic. Turn the Page by Metallica felt very badass to me. And what would happen is, it's before I really understood my angels and how they communicate with me. They would play songs for me to let me know. My angels are like my best friends, truly. And so the way that they talk to me is like every day, all the time, every 5 seconds, in every animal, every insect, total. It's just never ending communication, of which I'm very grateful. But it was just trickling in at that time where I was really starting to connect the dots. I was in my very, 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 very young 20s, late teens, early 20s with my first love, Jada. And I thought of her a lot because I know that she resides in the Carolinas, and I know that this would be devastating for her to, we haven't spoken in years and years, but, she was one of those exes that we had a tumultuous relationship, but I always wished her well. I didn't hate her. I always thought of her and was happy. I knew we weren't really supposed to be together. You know how that goes when you grow up and you're like, oh, but man, I'm so grateful I had a first love. It was beautiful when it existed, but I've thought a lot about her and her mom and her brother, and I hope that they're okay, because I know that they all kind of scattered in that area and lived in that way. Anyway, Turn the Page, Metallica. The reason I thought of it is because Jada would sing karaoke when we would go camping, and she did a dead ringer for Janis Joplin. Really good, really good. She had such a powerful voice. And I remember us camping at Chimney Rock and her winning a talent contest of singing Janis Joplin at the little campsite that we were at, which had like showers and everything. It was like one of the nicer campsites, so we thought we were so fancy. We were dirt broke. So poor, and that was a vacation that she could take me on. I've always insisted on a vacation. My Taurus moon will never not let me have some kind of vacation and luxury. And so even if we were dirt poor, I was like, is this the better campsite than the other one? Excellent, then this is for me. Indulge your little moments of vanity. But I remember her family saying to me, like, we've never seen anybody look like you when they come camping. Because even though back then I didn't wear makeup or any of that, I didn't wear makeup until my 30s, guys. So for those of you that are always so sweet and complimentary, y'all can learn it from the YouTube streets just like I did. And you're never too old or young to figure it out. But I didn't even wear makeup then, but I always dressed. And so I remember having like my outfits for camping, and they're like, we have just never seen anything like this and this moment. But be you wherever you go, guys. But I remember the music being so prevalent and hearing Metallica's Turn the Pages. We were driving up to Chimney Rock and knowing that a part of my life was over. Getting into the relationship with her was a huge signifier that a chapter and relationships with people that I just put on pedestals and loved so much had ended. And throughout my whole life up until this point, Chimney Rock, Asheville, North Carolina, the Biltmore Estates has been part of the tapestry of my life. I went there with another girlfriend years later, and still poor, and we could stay at hotels not in the Biltmore, of course, but the surrounding township of Asheville in the artsy district center, and we stayed in hotels. And I remember stopping, winding up mountains through Asheville, and me wanting to stop at the side of the road to get jellies and jams, of which we did. And I was with a girlfriend. I was actually with my twin flame. Oh my God, that toxic twin. But we were together at the time, and it was happier times, I guess. She was still a bitch then, even then. Now I reflect back, I'm like, I don't know why I like this person, Some people really are just lessons in your life, and they're not supposed to stay. But I was so happy and optimistic, and we drove up in her, like, black Thunderbird. I'll never forget it. And I was terrified. I still am to this day of driving in mountains, because I grew up in the Keys, in flat areas, right, and in islands, and so that was crazy to me. So she had to drive, and I just was like, oh my God, we're gonna end up off the side of the cliff. Like, I have the worst anxiety about driving. I don't know if there's anybody that I haven't dated that if we've had to travel somewhere, but they haven't had to come either drive for me, take me, and God bless all of you, whether I talk to you or not. Thank you for your service, because Monette is not driving on anybody's mountain. Like, it freaks me out. But I remember us doing that, and we could only afford to stay at hotels that were in the surrounding areas, and eat at IHOPs and Denny's and stuff. She was really mean, even though I loved her at the time. I think back on how unkind she was even then, and, like, I would make so many excuses for her, guys. I don't know who needs to hear this. I'm just rambling in hurricane thoughts, but yeah, just really check yourselves. If you're a younger woman or man here listening to me, and you think you're in love with someone and they're just not treating you kindly, That may really just be their personality. She turned out to be a horrible person in general. And you hear the difference in how I talk about my first love and her. My first love was also not amazing all the times, but I also was not amazing all the time too. I was full of fuckery, especially in that first love relationship, and we probably gave as good as we got. But I don't have ill will towards her. Her heart was good, you know. She may not. We don't ever have to cross paths again, but I always think of her well and wish her well, if that makes sense. There are some people in your life that scar you, that you don't wish well, that you wish will go to hell, that you actually despise later. And unfortunately, that toxic twin is one of those people. While I do all my soul work about it, you know, she was just fundamentally not a good person. And, you know, I really pride myself here with you guys in the collective, telling you all of the truths as close as I can get to them. And I'm telling you no lies. Like, I would not want to run across her in a dark alley. She's just horrible. She doesn't went out of her way to make people miserable. And what does that let you know about someone? Is that they are contained, full of misery. At least with Jada, there was laughter, there was happiness, there was love, and there was a lot of tries and fails that we did do to be together. We lived all over the place, and it was hell on wheels, but we tried. In any case, we just were not compatible meant to be together. Also, maybe a little side message, pay attention to compatibility. You are not compatible with everybody you date. And I think that we always want to make that be a thing. And what I've learned as I've aged is that it's really not a thing. That compatibility is a very clear thing. I pay a lot of attention to chemistry, and I pay a lot of attention to compatibility. It is not something that you can easily have. You either have it or you don't. And that's why when you do have chemistry with someone, instead of trying to find everything wrong with the relationship and pick it apart, honor it, because as much as you may think like, well, if this happened to me, something else could so easily happen to me. No, it won't. You know, I remember thinking that I could easily replace Jada, and realize like the reality check of that later in life, when I was like, I've never loved anybody like I loved her. It took me a long time to love someone. Not that toxic twin, not. It took me a long time to have love for someone where I felt safe with them and I wanted to spend a lot of time with them in my life. Compatibility really is a thing. And you can't replace people easily. So if you're the person that's being toxic and maybe taking for granted someone that's actually good to you, maybe reconsider. But if someone took you for granted, I promise you, they are reconsidering. It's not to say anything with me and Jada. Our paths were always supposed to be divergent. We were never supposed to end up together. But I can see how we both played parts in toxicity with each other, but also that there was a high level of chemistry and compatibility. But in any relationship, it will be tested. And we had a lot of tests. And a lot of those tests had underlines of racism, unfortunately. Her dad literally was a leader of a clan. Anyway, I remember driving through South Carolina and swimming in creeks and being in bucket lifts of tractor trailers and drinking beers with rowdy cousins in the middle of the night. I had a lot of beautiful memories with Jada. That would lead to fights because Jada was very jealous of me, which I don't know if you guys can hear the wind. Wow. Which at the time I thought was sexy, but you know, hindsight's 2020. It wasn't so sexy after all. In fact, I don't really experience people's jealousy in my life as sexy. It always feels very oppressive. I don't get off on that like some people do. Also, maybe it's not expressed the way that other people experience it. People's jealousy of me is always insidious and hidden, and they start to treat me badly, but really they're like, don't leave. And I'm like, don't leave. You've been treating me like shit. What are you talking about? I'm not staying for this. Anyway, I'm just rambling, guys. Thank you for letting me pass the time. Back to Asheville. It's been woven into the tapestry of my life. I remember the first time I saw the mountains. It was the first time I'd ever seen mountains in my life, and I was with Jada, and she was friends with somebody who was a housekeeper for someone who was an actress. If I say her name, you would know who she was. I can't think of it offhand. And she was like, we're going to go up here, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to camp, and we did. And it was just amazing. And then later when I was with the toxic twin, and we were staying at those, like, dingy-ass hotels, because that's all we could afford. And but we went on vacation because I insist on it. No matter who I date, I want a one-on-one vacation with my booski, whoever it is. Whoever booski is, we going on vacation. That's a big deal for me. And if I love you, even if you're bestie, I need one-on-one time. And if I don't get that's a thing for me. So I don't know, maybe someone here needs to figure out what your deal breakers are in any relationship, whether it be platonic or romantic. But and so we got turned away, actually went to the Biltmore, and we were not dressed appropriately because we were poor. And that's why a lot of lessons on dressing for me living in the South. I learned a lot. And I remember us always talking about one day we will not get turned away. And my intention with that twin was to take her back and to pay for everything and make it so that we would have the memory of being in our young 20s and being turned away because our attire did not fit what it would take to be seated to eat. And then all these years later, go back and be like, welcome, and very much the Julia Roberts moment, you know, like big mistake, huge, right? Now, that twin was so uncooperative with me in every way. I mean, have you ever dated someone or been friends with someone or had someone in your family that goes out of their way to misunderstand you, to make you the problem, to make you the villain, and then at the end of it, you're like, okay, well, then you win. And I was just so exhausted with her ridiculous behavior and her purpose of ignorance, like chosen ignorance. Like she went out of her way to be ridiculous and to not understand me and to misunderstand me and to malign me. And I was like, girl, I'm exhausted. Girl, what I recommend to you in the collective is heal that codependency and that people pleasing, because now that that's stripped out of me, the way that I look at people now, like, you know how much I really don't care about you? Like, my people pleasing was like this parasite that made me stay in relationships to prove that I was a good enough person or that they could love me or that I was worthwhile. Maybe that had a lot to do with the South and all the racism I was dealing with. I was trying to prove that I was, I wasn't like everyone else and whatever, all this other bullshit. Thank God for living. If life ends for me tomorrow, today, if the hurricane takes me out of here, I am grateful that I got to see this part of my life where I stand 10 toes down, and people pleasing is just what? People pleasing who? Codependency where? The way that I will walk away from people that try me now, I'm not staying here for you to treat me badly. You've lost your damn mind. But that was where I learned that. Sometimes those toxic relationships, oh, I need the fan again. Sometimes those toxic relationships will teach you how to stand up for yourself. You're like, why did this happen to me? And why did that person, I will never forget that person, but it's not in any nostalgic memories of running through fields of love. It's like, what a bitch. What a ridiculous waste of skin and space. She will do nothing for anyone because she's so involved in herself. And I don't imagine anything's changed. Some of y'all that wondered, like, oh, I want to spin the block with my ex. Nothing's changed. They're still terrible, okay? They're terrible. They're just being terrible to somebody else. They can never be happy and whatever. Anyway, we got turned away. My thing was to always treat her to amazingness. And when I finally got to the place where I was financially able to do it, the way she went rogue, that's another message. Your angels always know that someone's not supposed to come with you to the next level, and they will cause them to act up. They'll like detonate the demons inside of them, so then they start behaving so toxically and so terribly that you couldn't bless her. I was going to give her money. I had like thousands and thousands of dollars I was just going to hand her because I just loved her. That's one of my love languages, and I've learned to be a little bit better about that. But every time I'm ready to like bless someone or take them with me to whatever I think the next level is, the angels are always so good, and they're like, wait, let's activate their demons real quick, sis, so you can see we never wanted you to have her to have anything of yours. We never wanted to bless her. She was never supposed to see the backside of the Biltmore. It was never supposed to be her reality. Anyway, I ended up being in a friendship with someone who literally had season tickets, and I was at the Biltmore all the time. If I wanted to be, I could be there every single day. I was in Asheville often. A friend moved up to Asheville. I visited her when I was up there with my other friends, and we went and saw her. She was living in a little cottage. She was like pre-divorcing, and so she was like practicing her divorce. She had moved out of her husband's house in Florida and moved up there with her dog, and was just seeing what it would be like to live on her own. So we visited her quickly. And it was just good times. I spent a lot of time up there. Deltec Homes is in the Biltmore, Asheville area. Not Biltmore, but the Asheville area. And so I went to the Deltec Home several times with my husband, with my bestie, all that stuff. So I had so much beautiful memories. Almost an overload of Asheville, if you will. In fact, it would be something that my bestie would offer, and I would not want to go because we'd done all the wine, we'd done all the things. I never in my life thought that I would be like, I'm good on the Biltmore. I get it, because it was always this thing that was just out of reach for me, until it was not only not out of reach, it was completely in reach, and it was completely accessible to me, and it was almost over accessible to me. And then I got to see the backside of the Biltmore video. I don't know, because of the power and all that stuff. We'll see if I like connect it or not, but it was such a revelation to me, because it was like from being turned away to eating at the best 5-star whatever, and I remember having this little chat with the waitress who was like, I love your eyeshadow. And when I was at the Biltmore, I didn't wear makeup the first time, right? It wasn't even my repertoire. And to the waitress really like chatting me up and being like, eyeshadow, and I went and like showed her my palette and whatever the case may be, and we had a beautiful meal, and I was just like so happy in that moment. I was happy with the people that I was with. I really loved the people I was with. I loved the experience, and I loved that my angels always knew that that was going to be my reality. Like, they were like, when you were in your 20s and you're with that horrid freaking girlfriend, not the first love, not Jada, but the other one. I'll never say the toxic twin's name. It's like Beetlejuice, and she's fucking the devil. So I never say her name. But when I was with her, and she was being so mean, and it was just such an unpleasant experience, and she was a horrible person to date. Oh my God. Like, I feel like maybe I'm purging some PTSD about her. Like, just everything. God. Wow. Wow. Anyway, so God bless. But from those experiences to really, really lovely experiences to like feeling very included and very much familial and all the rest of it, it was just, I never thought I would have so much access to the Biltmore, but my angels knew. They knew that I was going to get to the backside of the Biltmore, that I was going to drive those many miles from where the house is to the place where the hotel is, and then I was going to have this palatial experience and stay at this beautiful, like the hotel that you stayed in the Biltmore is just freaking gorgeous. It's pretty pricey, pretty spendy, and it was all gifted to me. It didn't cost me anything. I didn't probably pay for my dinners and such, but it was just an invite because people loved me in that moment, in that family dynamic that I was a part of at the time. And it was just really, really just such a blessing. But my angels always knew that that fate would be mine, that it was not for my toxic twin, and it wasn't for my first love, Jada. She would not even have cared for that. She was very much like, when I think of Jada, I think of that Gretchen Wilson song, I'm a redneck woman, I ain't no high class broad. Yeah, that was Jada. She probably would have like turned her nose up at being at the backside of the Biltmore. She would have been like, I don't even want to do all that. She was super country. But anyway, I always wanted to do all that. I was always kind of fancy, even with no makeup, right? So I was always kind of fancy, and I always wanted to do that. But it wasn't right until it was. And so when I was watching all of the flooding and everything that happened in Asheville, my angels were like, they had told me I wasn't supposed to go to the trip, to the reunion trip, for a lot of reasons. It's, again, some other stuff was going on, but they said, even I was still being disobedient. I was like, well, I'm just going to go for the first half, and then I'll just sneak out so I don't have to deal with, some unpleasantries. And so, my angels were like, no. Now, what they didn't tell me, again, was that nobody's going. In fact, that nobody will be going or leaving from Asheville, unless they're leaving, unfortunately, because they've crossed over. Like, it takes my breath away. Like, I'm in the middle of a hurricane, but I'm thinking of those people. That is devastating. In Florida, we're used to devastation. I mean, it sounds weird, but we're used to devastation. We're used to that block of ice. We're used to freezing things. I have a deep freezer in my home. There's a small one. And we just went to Costco and refilled it last week because it had gotten empty. And I always make a vow to myself I don't go to replenish unless it's fully, at that state. And I met with some beautiful fishmongers in South Florida, and I bought some gorgeous fish back of all kinds and whatnot. So I just have all these gorgeous jewels of meats and fish in my freezer. And when the power goes out like this, it's like, you just hope for the best and keep the deep freeze closed and pray that you don't have to open it. But, you count your blessings because you're still living. Those people in Asheville have nothing. They're having to hike out of disaster. They're having to be airlifted out. And my heart breaks. And it was such this closure moment. And they said, Asheville will never be the same. And Biltmore, although they have lots of money, so of course they will restore that back, as it's one of them. It's America's, first mansion, essentially, America's first royalty. So that will get restored, but the landscape, as we know, is forever changed. And I'm thinking of Metallica's "Turn the Page." For those people there, it's not a page that they wanted to turn. But sometimes those tower moments happen because lessons have been learned and it's time to go. And I know that's unfathomable to us, right? Again, I'm sitting in the middle of a hurricane with no power in my home. So this could go on for a day, it could go on for 3, 5, a week, 2, who knows. But that's what it is. And people that need medical help and to keep their insulin cold and all that stuff, it all goes out the window. Within 2 days, I've been listening to a lot of the people that had survived in Asheville. They said it's an apocalyptic landscape, but it's also a war zone. People are looting, and it's every man for themselves. Society devolves into its lowest form because when there is nothing to lose, then there's nothing to lose, and everyone is kind of like every man and woman for themselves. And it only took 2 days for law and order to descend into chaos. Be so thankful for the structures that you have in your life and so thankful for the experiences, and we are not promised anything. When I had my near-death experiences in the last couple of years, I made peace with death. Like, it can come for me, and I'm going to be okay. I've left a legacy here, even if it's just whatever. I know my angel's always screaming at me about the other things they want me to do. But I'm like, if this is it, then I've left something here for you listening, for people that will find me in the future, and I did it. I don't have kids. That wasn't my journey in life. I don't have all of that, but I have my words, and that is what I was supposed to do in this life, was connect and teach. But there are a lot of people that lost their lives tonight, which is just so sobering as I speak, and in Asheville, that were not prepared and maybe had not made peace. So that's why I want you to live your life to the best way that you can. I had this weird thing happen to me the other day. Someone mistakenly called me, but I feel like it was probably going to lead to a scam. It's happened before. So the call was from Alabama, or it was an area code from Alabama. So I was like, I hope this is not someone from my past playing on my phone with their bullshit, right? But in any case, she was like, going back and forth, and then she was trying to chat me up. And I told her what my angels laid on my heart for her, and I said, listen, I don't know what your real name is, because she sent me a picture. It looked like some Asian lady or whatever. And I was like, listen, I don't know what your real name is, but I'm going to tell you this. You better love the people who you love. Be kind to the people who you are kind to. If there's someone that you love, if there's someone that you haven't told that you love, if there's someone you're in love with, if there's someone that you care about, if there's someone you need to make up with, or you want to say sorry to, if there's someone that you want to figure out something with, please do it. I said life is short. And I think I said that specifically because I don't imagine it was really one of my crazy exes trying to play games with me from Alabama, but for the spirit of that, because there were so many games played, it was like an homage to that part of my life that was gone because I turned the page. And that's advice I wish I could have given to that toxic twin as she was playing in my face, is like, I'm not going to always be here. And not only am I not going to be here, but the way that I feel about you and the way that I hold you in high esteem will change. And it will be something that will be the only thing that you want to get back. It's not just me to attack and to get revenge on. You will only want the kindness and the warmth of my energy as I surrounded you with grace and with real love, actually. People play with us sometimes, empath, and maybe you've played with people too. Again, I gave as good as I got with Jada to a certain degree. She was toxic, but so was I, okay? So if you ever hear someone say that they was never the problem, that's a lie. Lie detector says that's a lie. Because I was, there were moments in that relationship, and I could talk about it and the abusiveness of it, but the truth of the matter is we were young and we were learning shit and we were not compatible. But even upon our disembarkation, there was still real admission of, man, I really loved you. I know this is not what we're going to do again, because we were always like, our chemistry was electric. So there was always this threat of like, we could easily be back together, but we're a disaster when we're in each other's lives. Decisions are not made good no matter how much I tried to build lives for us. She would sabotage it. And I had my moments of sabotage in the earlier days of the relationship too. In any case, I said to this random stranger on the phone, be kind to the people that you love and say, I love you. And it kind of ended whatever scammy thing she was trying to do. She sent me back the big watery eyes. And I could tell that no matter what kind of scammer she was, out of what part of the country she really was at, that it affected her. because, not just because of the watery eye emojis, but because she's a human. At the other end of that scamation and the pranking and the whatever was about to happen or she thought was going to happen, my angels never lie. And she needed to hear that message, or he, or whoever the fuck it was on the other end of the line needed to hear that message, which is that life is short. Don't play in people's face. Not just mine, because girl, you are not going to affect my life at all. But whoever is in your life, maybe win, lose, or draw, maybe you should go back and say the things you need to say, because life can easily be taken away. When I think about Asheville and the fact that I will never, ever go back there, not because of punishment or anything like that, but because it's going to be a totally different place, even upon going back. You know what? I say in my mind that I probably will not go back to Asheville, but obviously the universe, we plan and God laughs. Isn't that what they say? My angels knew that I was going to be back there throughout all of my 20s into my 40s with different pivotal relationships. And I can like pinpoint each one. There are 3 major relationships that I had with women that two were romantic and one was platonic. It had romantic undertones, ironically. But didn't occur to me really till the end of that even. But 3 relationships with people that I loved and loved dearly. Loved them so dearly. And each and every one of them showed their ass with me. And then we had to go our separate ways. Again, with Jada. I played too. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes these lessons come in and they're just supposed to teach you, not to stick with you. I'm never going back to the Carolinas again. For me, unless God sends me, okay? My chapter there is officially closed. I feel like I did it. It was woven through the tapestry of my life. And now I feel such closure with it. Again, that Metallica song. Excuse me, turn the page. Here I am on the road again. Here I am back on stage. Here I am playing the star again. And that's so significant because in this last chapter of my life, there was an Aquarius energy of which was associated and affiliated with that area, which I just think of as a betrayer now. But that was always the role that they were supposed to play. It was always supposed to go this way. And it's so interesting to me because I've been singing that song for 20 years, or the angels very creepily, like in a movie, will put it on just randomly on a jukebox. That's happened before somewhere. And I didn't play the song, or I could just hear it coming on the radio back in the day when radios were a bigger part of our lives, like literally driving in the car with Jada down the Blue Ridge Mountains Passway, which takes you to Asheville, and Turn the Page comes on. Or as I'm driving out of Alabama because my twin flame did me so wrong that I couldn't stand or stomach the sight of her ever again. Like I was done with her. And when I'm done, I end a thing. I end it completely. And it's so powerful, that song, to me. And even in this last ending with this Aquarius energy, turn the page, absolutely. I will never look back, and I will never reminisce sweetly, like with Jada. Even though she's been the longest out, right? I still can think of her positively, and again, I've thought of her quite deeply a lot in the last couple of weeks since I've been watching what happened to the Carolinas. But she wasn't as toxic as some of these other situations, even in her moments of toxicity. Some people go out of their way to be malicious, and maybe they feel like it's valid, like they're validated for it. When they say there's always 3 sides to a story, yours, mine, and the truth. Well, fortunately for me, I usually end up on the side of the truth more often than not because I live with integrity. The same advice that I give to that scammer person that was trying to get me earlier this week is the same advice I live by, and the same advice that I give to you in the collective. Love people completely. My purpose on earth, everybody always wants to know, like, what's your purpose? What are you here for? My purpose on earth specifically is to teach you about love. And sometimes I look around at my landscape of love and think, well, gosh, I've gotten a lot of short ends of the stick of it. Are you guys sure you want me to teach this? And they said, absolutely. who why wouldn't we want you to teach it? Because you know a lot of the uglier sides of it. I also know some of the beautiful sides of it too. Because in each one of those relationships, it wasn't always ugly. There were kindnesses that were shown to a certain degree. And there were people that, even if they treated me poorly, I believe at some point, deep, 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 for some more than others, very deep, deep, deep down, they might have loved me. Loved me so much they wanted to abuse me, or loved me so much they wanted to possess me, or loved me so much they wanted to keep me, or use me, whatever, misuse me. But either way, I've seen all these different facets of love. You know, I heard Chapel Rowan talking recently, and she talked about how love is a kaleidoscope. Especially she talked about loving women specifically, which I can relate to. And she was like, it was such a beautiful way that she put it. She said, you know, and she was almost like soothing the collective soul. If you've ever been in one of these relationships, she said, you know, one day, she wrote a song about, like, I want to kiss you. It's like you're falling in love with your friend. And she said, one day you're looking at your friend, and then you're like, why do I want to kiss her? And then you do, and then you end up together, and then, like, a year later, you don't speak again, and now you've lost your friend. Like, I think she had a relationship where she was friends with someone, like, really close friends with someone for 10 years, and then they went there, they took it there, and then a year later they break up, and then it's no contact. And how devastating that is when you're in queer relationships, and I know that all too well. But it's the truth, and it was just such a beautiful way. And she was like, but I can't let love break me because it's a kaleidoscope. You know how you turn it. And I thought, oh, God, for a kid of the 80s, couldn't be a better metaphor. She's not a kid of the 80s, but I feel like she's an old soul for sure. What they say, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. She's been becoming an overnight success in 10 years. I'm very fascinated with her because she's authentic. And she didn't waver or change herself or her style to be anything other than what she is, which is just a woman trying to get it right and trying to love and trying to laugh and trying to live, as trite as that is. But I thought, yeah, our love is a kaleidoscope, and there's all these little fractals and little mini pictures and ways that we'll look at things. And one day, someone that absolutely loved you can be someone that hates you, and it can be the sharp edge that cuts you. And you could never see it coming, but at one time it was this beautiful rainbow of colors that were streaming through. Here I am, playing the star again. Here I am. Turn the page. Sometimes the pages will be turned for you. These hurricanes are pages that are turned for people. When I saw the mudslides and the houses floating away, I will never see the steeple of Chimney Rock another day in the same way. I will never feel the cool breeze of the mountain swimming over my face with my hand out the window on a blue sky day and the sound of the river racing over the rocks. The landscape is forever changed. The people are forever changed. The quirky artistic lore will remain and will restore because that's what artists do. But we will forever be changed because of what they've been through. Tower moments happen to us all, and none of us ask for them, do we? But we are guided to move through them and to build something new. I've had so many feelings about the fact that Asheville is no longer a thing for me. And even when I had free will, my angel said, bow out gracefully and be at peace. I didn't understand it, guys. I want to tell you how much I wanted to fight against that because I felt like I need to go show up and I need to pay my respects because I love Joy so much. And my angel said, no, you're not supposed to be there. And I promise you guys, bought ticket, really tried. Didn't even tell Sweet John that I bought the ticket. I told him, we'll see what I can do. Because my intention was to surprise him for the first half and be up there, you know? My angel said no. And also, fortunately, I have a relationship with this man and whatnot. So I can connect with him, like I said, and visit him. In fact, he so sweetly offered me to come up and to evacuate at his house during this hurricane. I was just on the phone with him yesterday and the day before. And he was like, girl, get up here right now. What a gem of a guy, man. What a gem of a guy. But anyway, we're here. We're here. Maybe I'll ask why later, but we're here. Okay. So for all of my clients that have reached out, clients that are friends, you guys know who you are. Thank you. And for parasocial friends that have reached out that are friends in real life now, thank you. And for parasocial friends that are still just parasocial friends, thank you. For people that have thought about me and prayed for me and worried about me and inquired about me and sent me love and good energy, thank you. The best part of that song and turning the page and the grit of which Metallica sings it is actually you, collective. I didn't know when I was going through all of those hard times. I'm channeling Landslide by Stevie Nicks right now. I've been scared of changes because I've built my life around you. But time gets older. Even people get older. And I'm getting older too. Mirror on the wall. What is love, man? What is love? Love has been the source of a lot of pain for me, but a lot of lessons. And finally, I understand what I mean by pour love into yourself, and then you get your blessings. It's still something I'm struggling with and working on. But the adage is not wrong. When you love yourself, love is attracted into you. And because I started to stand up for myself and love myself and tell people off when I've needed to and say, I am not playing this fucking game with you, whatever game they want to play, no matter how manipulative they want to be, I got to meet so many of you. And this is the reality that I'm so grateful that I got to live to see. The page has turned, and it's turned beautifully for me. Chapters close, and things are put to rest. I will pray for the people of Asheville forever because it has such a special place in my heart and in my life's tapestry. But sometimes things change forever, and they change permanently. And that was the way it was always destined to be. 20 years ago, this storm was going to happen. That's happening over me now, and the one that happened, Helene, to them. 20 years ago when I was getting pancakes with a toxic twin who was treating me like shit even back then. The storm was always destined to happen. There are storms in your life that are destined to happen, and you cannot get around them. They are tower moments that will sweep in, and they'll take your power out. And they'll make you question what life is about, and maybe it might leave the meat in your freezer rancid, where you have to throw it out, or it might cause you to have a group barbecue party, which we have planned with the neighbors, to cook everything, because we gotta live, man, and we've got to survive. And sometimes disasters bring out the best of humanity. And you get to see the people that really love you, and that care about you, actually. You don't plan for it, you don't welcome it, and you don't want it. But sometimes it pushes you to learn exactly how strong you are. And what you are supposed to take away from it, I believe, is that your angels were always on it. This was always meant to happen. Whatever your tower or hurricane moment is, your angels and ancestors knew it would sweep in, and you would hold on for dear life and maybe think it might sweep me away. But so many of you that are listening to this video today got to stay. If you're going through a hard time emotionally, medically, financially, it was destined to happen, but it's something that's going to strengthen you somehow if you're still listening. I don't have all of the answers. In fact, I don't have but a few. In fact, some days I feel like I don't have any. Some days I feel like I know less than I ever thought I did. I wish I had the hubris and confidence of my 20s, but the truth is I know nothing. I'm just out here trying to swim through. Some days I go with the flow. Some days I swim upstream. I think we all do. But I'm learning every day with you, and that's my promise to you. So thank you for listening to my hurricane ramblings of Metallica and turning the page, and my bittersweet closure with the Asheville space. I know, again, if God intends for me to go back, I will, but it was so metaphoric as it was all happening. For me personally, very personally for me, for a myriad of reasons that I will not go into here, my angel said, it's time to turn that page. That part of your life has passed away. It is dead. you finally have conquered whatever you needed to regarding the Biltmore and being accepted and belonging. You know, that was what that whole theme was about. It was too poor to even get in. Had to camp on the bottom of the mountain or at the top of the mountain, wherever Chimney Rock is adjacent to the Biltmore. And then the next time I was on the fringes, and then the next time I was on the insider's track. And so I did it. Sometimes you conquer something, you don't even realize it, but there is no more looking back. Like, I did it. I did every single thing. I recorded. I remember recording from the tiered gardens at the Biltmore. I was so devastatingly hurt at that moment. It was in the beginning of the separation with my toxic twin. And that had been going on for some time, but like it had really sunk in. And really what sunk in for me was that I was supposed to be there with her, not the people I was there with, even though I was so grateful for those people and it was a beautiful experience. But you know how it is, guys. You know, like I'm a person that follows through and I find solutions, and I live to have those moments where I can say, remember when we were turned away, but now they're rolling out the red carpet. And I wanted her to have that. But listen, maybe that's a message here for you too. You can't want something more for someone than they do. She did not want that, not with me anyway. And that wasn't the bittersweet issue there. It was that I would have killed myself and bent myself into a pretzel backwards to make sure that she had that experience. But she was disrespectful and ungrateful and took it for granted and found every reason to pick it apart. She like siphoned my energy and thought it was hers and got very cocky and got a big head and treated me so horrifically and was with people that didn't care about her, that didn't really want to see her happy, that actually were jealous, that actually wanted access to me and stalked me and did all that weird shit. And she couldn't see it. And all I wanted to do was bless her. And my angels stopped me. Sometimes your spirit team will not allow you to give another thing to someone who is being disrespectful to you. Even in my final closure of the Carolinas and Asheville, my angel said, you had extended an emotional grace to someone who was going out of their way to spite you, who was going out of their way to gaslight you and their adjacent family members, to make it seem like one thing was happening when they had been going out of their way to be evil and hateful and wanting their family to think that it was essentially me. They wanted to point the villainy at me. And I said, okay, you know, I'm used to being people's villain. It's been a theme in my life, when really I'm an earth angel dispatched in to help get you right. But okay. So I can't take away the promotions, and I can't take away the blessings, and I can't take away the up-leveling or the peace or the happiness that I already gave. It's given, and that's you're welcome. But I'm not staying here for the mistreatment and for the lies and the gaslights and the spite. And no one should. Sometimes pages close in your life because you've done the good that you were supposed to do, and they don't deserve another drop of good from you. No more emotional manipulation. No more gaslighting, no more maligning, and no more controlling demands for you to stay, sit, and shut up and do as they tell you to, because they are miserable and they want you to be miserable with them too. Sometimes these pages get closed for you, and be grateful and rejoice when they do, because there's more life that you're supposed to live. Again, I could be taken out of here tonight with this very hurricane, should God decide. But I know that even if I only got to escape out of my last iteration of craziness, and I was only supposed to have that experience for several months of freedom and the levity and the lightness that came with it, then that was the gift. Meaning, even if my life ends today, God forbid, that I was supposed to know what it was to be away from something that had now been infected with sickness. Not all of our relationships start out that way. And we all start out with the best of intentions, with all of the sweet, I love you, no, I love you, no, I love you. And I'm a person that loves people through and through. The kind of love that we give collective rocks people to their soul. It changes them. It rearranges them. We are the Rubik's Cube solvers of puzzles that people have been spinning and spinning and spinning. And we come in, and within a few seconds, it's like watching one of those savants take hold of that cube, and all of the colors are in alignment, and everything makes sense, and every surface is smooth. But sometimes people are anarchists and they will undo all of that beautiful spiritual work you did do, and they want to just keep twisting that Rubik's Cube. That's not a mission for you. Maybe someone needs to hear that. I love you guys. I want to shout out to Gilly too. Sweet Gilly, my angels just put you on my heart. This is one of my male viewers, one of the small percentage of male viewers that I have. And so I want to thank you for always viewing and for staying and working through the stuff that you're working through too. Masculine energy is really trying to work through some things lately in the collective, and it's really beautiful to see. And I'm proud of every one of you, including you, Gilly. All right, guys. So good sharing energy with you. Thank you for killing the time. We're right at an hour. The reason they did that for a reason. 5959 might be an angel number for you guys to go check out. I'm going to, fortunately, I can go plug my phone into my car if I need to charge, but I also have lots of chargers here in the house, so I'm good. So I'm going to, I don't know what, do something else. Maybe there's going to be little bad videos that you guys get a ton of videos as long as I have a phone to record on for the next however long we don't have power. But I love you guys. Thank you for listening to me. Turn the page if you were called to turn the page. Actually listen to Metallica if you feel called to listen to it. And then maybe ask yourself this. What song is it for you? Let's turn it into a bit of a lesson at the end here. What thing do you always hear, or what symbol do you always get, or what numbers do you always see, or what color always flashes, or what animal totem shows up when something is over and it's time to pivot course and change your destiny. Message. Love you guys. Come back and join me next time, and we'll continue to ride out hurricanes together, apparently, and evolve together.